Hi everybody, this is Cindy again from Ideas Times 2, and I have a short tutorial for you today, a part 1, and this is an altered composition notebook. It's an inexpensive, easy project that I thought I would share today. The perfect time, since this is the Tracy Fox July Challenge, and so I needed to make some journals for that to send out some little packages of Happy Mail. So I thought I would share what I have here, and this one right here is one I just took out of my stash. It's something I actually have in our Etsy shop, and it's this cute little composition notebook that I use this adorable lobster paper on. The front has the lobster, the back is just chevron, and the seahorses on the belt here. So it has a belt closure with just the twine tie and a couple of charms here. And the spine is reinforced with muslin and cheesecloth. And on the inside, I've altered just a few more things. I've kept it mostly blank, but the inside has a nice big tuck spot with some journaling cards. Here's a nice big pocket with some coffee stain paper right here for some journaling, and this big tag on the inside that can be used for journaling or putting pictures on, or little memorabilia. And on the other side of that, hey Lizzie, is another pocket with 3 tags in it. On the back, inside of the back cover, it has a nice big pocket with a big journaling tag and some more coffee stain paper for journaling there. And the last thing that I altered was to add these divider pages that have tabs and little charms on them. And one of the charms is a little seashell, and the other one is a seahorse. And this is a very inexpensive project, and it's easy, and I thought it would be fun to share, since it's almost, here in Virginia anyway, here in my school district, it is almost, come on out of the way, sweetie, almost time for back to school. Fact is, I'm a teacher, and I go back in a week and a couple of days. This is another one I made. It's the same style with the belt, the muslin, and the closure with some little charms on it. And the inside has this nice big tuck spot. The back also has a tuck spot, and this really cute paper. This is kind of a farm theme, and I just made this one yesterday for the Tracy Fox July Challenge. And so let's go ahead and get started. And so for the first part of the tutorial, I'm just going to do the outside cover, and then I'm going to do a part 2 that will be how I did the inside. So what I started with was your standard 10 by 7.5 composition notebook. In the United States right now, you can get these for about 50 cents because it's back to school, and so they have them at Target, Walmart, Staples, Office Depot, pretty much anywhere for really inexpensive. And you know, they have more expensive composition notebooks out there, but why spend the money? These are perfect. So for about 50 cents. But I didn't like the size. I thought it was a little big for what I wanted, so I cut them down to 6 by 9. And so these are just the exact same notebook, except I trimmed about 1 inch off the top and 1.5 inches off the sides. I thought it was a better size to fit in a backpack, or if it's for yourself, to put in your handbag or computer bag. So this is 6 by 9. I'm also going to play around with some of these half size, and you can see this was just one notebook, and I cut it right down the middle. So it's still about 7.5 inches by about 5 inches. And one thing you may notice is that when the notebook is its regular size, all the pages are rounded. And of course, when you cut it down, they're not rounded anymore. I prefer the round edge. So hey, Lizzie. So you can see this one I haven't rounded the edges on, but this one I have. And it just takes a couple of minutes, and I think it gives it a cleaner, more finished look. So this is the one we're going to work with right now. All right, off you go. Good girl. Sorry, I've been on vacation, and my cat has been very clingy since I got home. As soon as I start talking on the video, she thinks I'm talking to her, and she needs to come and suck up all the attention. So this is what we're going to start with, 6 inches by 9 inches. If you don't want to cut it down or don't have the tools to cut it down, that's okay too. This exact same process will work, except you will need twice as much paper. Simply because when it's 6 inches wide, you can cut the one piece of paper in half, and it will do both the front and the back and the insides. And you just need one piece of paper for the big pocket and one piece of paper for each of the dividers. And when the notebook is the full 7.5 inches wide by 10 inches tall, it is obviously too big to do that. So that is really the only consideration that you need to think about is by leaving it bigger, you need more paper. But if you're like me, you probably have a lot of paper, so it may not matter at all. So we're going to start with the cover, the front cover, and I've already cut my paper down just for the sake of time. And so I'm going to do a Wizard of Oz theme for this little journal. And this paper is double-sided, but I wanted to use the print, and I think I'm going to put this one on the front cover, and then this one on the back. There was no easy way to trim this down and not wind up cutting Dorothy in half over here, and I cut off the front of Glinda's airplane, and so Dorothy's face is on this side, and that leaves Glinda on the back. So that's what I'm going to do, and for this I'm going to use Fabri-Fix, which is basically the same thing as Fabri-Tac, and I find it actually easier to use glue stick for this, and my preferred glue stick is Uhu, but this paper, the paper inside is pretty thin, and so it wrinkles very easily. So instead of having to worry about the wrinkles, I'm going to use the Fabri-Fix, which I usually use Fabri-Tac. I don't even know how I managed to wind up with Fabri-Fix, but it's good glue, and it will do a good job of holding the paper down. So I think that Fabri-Tac or Fabri-Fix is perfectly fine for this project. And a fair amount of glue on there. So I'm just going to make sure that it is centered on the front. I cut this paper 9 inches by 5 and about 3/4. I didn't want the full 6 inches because then you wind up with this curve on the spine, and I didn't want to have to worry about that. And I did a pretty good job of getting it to the right size. And once that is on there, then round that corner again. And same thing on the back cover. And this project does not take a long time, and you can embellish as much or as little as you want. I am not a lace doily sequiny kind of person. I'm not big on the sparkles and the lacy things. I like nice clean edges and clean corners. So I'm not going to be doing a lot of embellishing. And I really don't think I need to. This paper is so stinking cute that I want the paper to kind of speak for itself. And make sure on the inside. Got a little off there. I don't want any of that red to show, the red of the notebook. And that's another thing I like about the Fabri-Tac and Fabrifix, is that it gives you a little bit of time to fix your mistakes or to get things lined up. So if you have any trimming to do, if your paper is a little long, now's a good time to do that. Or if your paper is a little short, you want to make sure that the cover is fully covered. And if you are going to distress, now I think would be the best time to do that. And so I might just add a little bit of ink to the edges, since the cover looks a bit like an old newspaper. It would probably be fairly distressed anyway if it was an actual newspaper. So I'm going to give that a little extra color. So that is the front and back cover. The next thing you need to do is make the belt. And because I wanted mine sewn, I went ahead and did that, so you didn't have to watch that on camera. So what you need for the belt is 2 pieces of cardstock that are 2.5 inches wide and 9 inches, or 2.5 inches tall, 9 inches wide, and glue them together. And I just used some of the cutoffs from the pieces that I needed for the inside, and I want to and I rounded the corners on here, and then I sewed them together after the glue dried. And a very simple, easy way to make a belt. Before we attach it to the notebook, though, we need to make the closure, and for that you need a hole punch and some paper scraps, and I think I will use this little heart paper, and it's got the Tin Man on the other side, but I think I'm just going to use the hearts, and I'm going to cut out 3, or punch out 3. And we're going to glue them together. And for this, I'm going to use the glue stick. And it doesn't matter what goes underneath or what shows underneath, because it's going to be underneath, so it won't be noticeable. But I'm going to put hearts on both the top and the bottom, and give that just a little bit of time to dry. And I'm going to use my Crop-A-Dile to attach it to the belt. And probably needs a little more time to dry, but I'm just going to eyeball that, put the hole in the center, and add and I'm using a black eyelet so that it matches. And I was definitely just not thinking. I just had a little brain freeze there. It's not what I intended to do. I intended to attach it to that. So we will just start that one over, huh? And so we'll do that again. Everybody makes mistakes when they're crafting, and there's no reason to start the video over and pretend that I didn't just screw that up. So I cut out 3, glue them together, and try that again. All right. So we're going to make that little button. Let that dry just a little bit. And just going to eyeball that, make my hole. And on here, I'm going to do the same thing. All right, looks pretty close. Now, I need my black eyelet, and I'm going to put it in there, and now I'm going to attach it. It makes so much more sense. There we go, just like that. You would think I'd never made one of these before. So now we have something to wind our string around, and it's in there pretty good. And now we can attach it. So I want the black up on top, and I'm going to center this in the middle of the back. I want to make sure that it is in the center, and using my Fabrifix, I'm going to put glue. I'm going to glue this whole thing to the back. About 5 inches of that, 5.5 inches, and kind of center it on there. And then I'm going to leave this obviously unglued, and isn't that cute? So I think I'm going to use twine for the closure, and so probably about well, depends on how long you want it, about 30 inches, 36 inches maybe. And I want to make sure and leave enough room so that the notebook can expand and still close. So I'm going to give it plenty of the twine, and I'm going to glue that right here. And you might want to use your glue gun for this. I'm generally not allowed to use hot glue guns. I have burnt myself more times than you can even imagine. And but it would be faster to dry if you used your hot glue gun, and maybe not quite as messy, because I am making a mess on my fingers. There we go, it's almost dry. The video I made yesterday was not quite that messy, but unfortunately it was 49 minutes long and my computer just was not happy with that. So the next thing I want to do is add my my cheesecloth in muslin, and you don't have to use muslin if you have fabric that is color coordinated that matches whatever paper you're using. You might want to do that, and that's perfectly fine. If you coffee stain or tea stain your muslin, that's great too. I just happen to want to use this unbleached muslin today, and my cheesecloth is also everything is sticking to my fingers. My cheesecloth is also unbleached, and I'm going to just add a little bit of glue down the spine, and a little bit on the back, and a little bit on the front, and add the cheesecloth. And I usually cut it 9 inches by about 2 inches, and then I can trim off what is showing, what I don't want to show. And I always prefer to err on the side of caution and have a little too much and then not enough. So just gives that spine a little extra stability. And then I'm going to do the same thing now with the muslin, and I'll trim off any excess fabric and cheesecloth when I'm done. And you want to make sure that you have enough glue, but you don't want any big globs, because of course that's what will seep through your fabric, and we don't want that, as I'm sure all of us who've made a journal or two have accidentally ruined a cover by using a little too much glue. Just want to make sure that it's centered on there, and any excess can be trimmed. Add a little bit more glue once you have it on there, once you see where your edge is going to be. Just a light bead so that it doesn't seep through your muslin. Hey, Liz. And I'm going to add a little bit more to the front. I don't know what the weather is like where you are, but it is so stinking hot here in Virginia right now that there's no going outside. I will be probably at my crafting table for the next 4 days. The actual temperature right now is in the mid-90s, and we just had some rain, so you would think that would help, maybe cut the humidity, but it just made it worse. and our actual temperatures over the weekend are supposed to be over 100, and the heat index is well over 100. It's miserably hot. All right, and the last thing I want to do for the cover is add some charms to be some weight for the string. And because this is a Wizard of Oz theme, I picked 2 charms, which I'd like to show you, but my hands have so much glue on them, they're gross. But I have a little castle and a rainbow, and I'm putting that on to go with my Wizard of Oz theme. And it will give some weight to the string so that you have just a little more stability on that closure. And I like my books to be stable, and so if there's a way to reinforce, I don't take shortcuts on that kind of stuff. I like to make sure everything, nothing's going to fall apart. Everything is well made. So all right, there we go. I've got my 2 charms, and I'm going to just wrap this around real fast and see, so I can see where I want the charms to land. And wrap it around twice. All right, so I need this up just a little higher, about right there, I think, and then I'm going to tie a knot. And there we go. So I'm going to trim those edges, those ends off a little bit. So there's my cover. Back cover has the contrast of the belt on there. The spine is reinforced, and a couple of little dangly charms to make sure that there's a little added weight on there, and I think it looks pretty good. It's very simple, and if you wanted to, you could be done and not do anything else. But I want to do a few other things, and so I'm going to do another video kind of showing you how I modify and alter the inside. So there we go. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you give it a try. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. And thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.